I hear you. We were on a mission trip. I can't think of which one I want to tell you. I mean, you're overseas and you're on a mission trip and you find out that you're sleeping 16 people of 5 in a 3-bedroom house. That's a little bit of privation, in my opinion. And then some young lady who's sleeping in the living room decides that she wants to warm her pajamas on the stove to get them a little bit warm because it was cold, and they were polyester. And so the whole house was filled with smoke. And then the fire, now, simple privations. All of us got sick. Had to sing sick. But do you see miracles happening? One of our friends was a video, what do you call a person who takes video? Videographer. Thank you, Susan. And he videoed our concerts because he was putting together a documentary. I mean, it's college and you have memories. And we remember distinctly, time after time, seeing people, tears streaming down their cheeks as they listened to us singing. And then you say, okay, it was worth it. God was touching people's lives. And I think privation sometimes helps us depend more on God. That's just what I have seen. But it does happen when you're doing God's work. However, there's someone in this trip who struggled with the privation. And his name is? Mark. In fact, that last paragraph of 169 says it was here, and it's describing Perga and Pamphylia. It was here that Mark, overwhelmed with fear and discouragement, wavered for a time in his purpose to give himself wholeheartedly to the Lord's work. I want you to imagine, you are living in your comfortable home. Your mom obviously has the gift of hospitality. So you probably are eating pretty well. You're probably pretty comfortable because hospitable places have that. And then you're enjoying the gospel. You've heard it. You're excited about it. And then you go out and you find out it's just not like it is at mom's.
People don't want to hear what you have to say.
You know what? Maybe if I go, I wouldn't mind being a Christian back at mom's boarding house, right? Maybe that's sometimes something we all face, right? Because Christianity, quite frankly, does have phases where you have a nice place with good food, but oftentimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes it's not a lot of sleep. Sometimes it's hard floors. Or maybe it's not even privations when it comes to physical, it comes to mental. And I think that's where a lot of us face difficulties today. You want to do something, but the battle emotionally is so strong. I'm finding out more and more that takes place in the society we live in.
Yes.
Unused to hardships, he was disheartened by the perils and privations of the way. He had labored with success under favorable circumstances. But now, amidst the opposition and perils that so often beset the pioneer worker, he failed to endure hardness as a good soldier of Christ. He had yet to learn to face danger and persecution and adversity with brave heart. And as the apostles advanced and still greater difficulties were apprehended, Mark was intimidated and losing all courage, refused to go further, and returned to Jerusalem. Well, what do we say about Mark?
He's young.
That's what Barnabas said, right? Have mercy on him. How does Paul respond? I mean, we know this is probably one of the more famous stories, but how does Paul respond when this happens?
Unfavorably. Harshly.
He's kind of harsh, right? How does he feel about Mark's returning back to Jerusalem?
He felt that he had failed, I think.
Yeah. He says he judged him unfavorably.
Yeah.
It says even severely for a time.
And you know what's interesting is that it doesn't say that he treated him that way once he decided to go back. It could be that Paul was could be that they didn't get along together before that, and that might have been part of the reason, perhaps, that Mark became even more discouraged.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at here, first paragraph on page 170. It says, this desertion caused Paul to... And so, amazing how there was a Barnabas out there for me. And that Barnabas makes me profitable for the Pauls.
Sometimes it's your best friends that have to be frank with you and tell you what you don't want to hear.
Do we need both Paul and Barnabas for our youth today?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I want to be clear, because one of our prayer requests that we had earlier today was for our youth, right? Do our youth need people who are going to tell it to them straight?
Yes. But they also need people that they can cry on their shoulder.
Yes. Both.
Who will accept them for the way they are.
And
young people have this very strong need to be accepted for who they are.
You know, I hear in this church, even in our church here, there are some who say, hey, I don't want anything to happen. They need every opportunity. We don't want to do anything that would make them want to go out the door. And then we have other people who at our church who will look more like a Paul perspective and say, you know what?